And welcome to another episode of Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. I'm Tom Mangelli, and this is Doug Max. Doug's not going to be speaking much today. He'll kind of be my ventriloquist puppet. But we have special guests today that you're gonna enjoy. We have the very funny Jeff Greenberg. Say hi, Jeff.
Hi.
And we also have Veronika Lubitsch.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Veronika. And of course, we have Doug Max and Tom Mangelli. So this is Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. And before we get started, I just want to mention our sponsor, J. Irwin Productions. If you're ever in the need of comics, and if you're doing a fundraiser or an office party or a showcase at a restaurant or whatever, a private party even, contact Jack at jirwinproductions.com. He knows all kinds of comics, over 200 comics in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area. He's great to work with, and he guarantees results. So contact Jack at jirwinproductions.com. So
about the guarantee. Tell him Tom sent you. Hey,
yes.
Hey,
Tom.
what's the guarantee for how often am I supposed to laugh in one of these Jack Irwin production comedy shows? Like every 10 seconds? Hey, I only laughed every 12 seconds. I want my money back.
Yeah.
And this has been the voice of Doug Max. I'll come back, and I'm in a lot of pain, Tom. Thank you. Tom said I'm not going to be talking because I'm in a lot of pain. I was doing auto work. We don't need to talk about it. Everything is good. But
yes, Doug is usually just a carrier when it comes to pain, especially headaches. But today he's experiencing it himself. So he's going to be drunk by the end of the show. I'm not going to lie. But anyway, welcome.
Anyway, wait a minute.
What?
In my style, I want to depress everyone a little bit.
Oh, great!
So that it's easier for our guests to be funny. Today we're recording on December 7th, the date that will live in infamy. And
That's right.
A long time ago, many people died, and it prompted us to get into war. And because of that, a lot of other stuff happened. And anyway, for everyone's sacrifice, that's today. I guess it's not important because we're going to be listening to it tomorrow, right?
That's true. Now, just on that note, Pearl Harbor, I have a friend whose birthday is on Pearl Harbor Day, and we took him out to a Japanese restaurant on his birthday one year, and we're all sitting there at this sushi place, and I start cracking up, and they all looking at me like, what are you laughing at? I says, doesn't anybody else see the irony in this? No.
So, Veronika, where are you from?
Germany. That's why I was thinking, for me, Pearl Harbor has no real meaning. But it shows if you make good food or good cars, you can start a world war and lose it, and eventually people will still buy your products and get over it.
I've been in a BMW 3 Series since 1994. I've done
Yep, see?
I've done over 250,000 miles in the same different BMWs, but all 3 Series manual. Love it.
BMW.
Yeah, I love driving a stick.
Veronika, how long have you been here? You have a strong accent, so.
I've been here for a long time, 20 years, but I came here. They say when you're older than 12, 13, and you move to a country, you will never lose your original accent. It's just a given.
Right.
My girlfriend's daughter is studying at Heidelberg University.
Oh, wow. That's where my mom went to university.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
What did your mom study?
She studied languages. So she's fluent in Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, English, and a little bit of French. And then she also took some economic classes.
So
nice.
So growing up, when your mom said, do the dishes, did she tell you in 7 different languages so you learned them all?
What she did is actually, when I was 4, she had those records, because I'm old. So when I was 4, there were still records. And she had this French record that she would play for me to learn French. And I still remember there's this one scene where a girl walks in and she has a pain in her ear, and then she complains to the doctor, and then the doctor finds a fly in it and he has this laugh. And to this day, I hear this, qu'est-ce que c'est? C'est une mouche dans l'oreille. And this sentence is just drilled into my head. And I was told by some French people, considering I'm not from Paris, my pronunciation is not that bad. And French people are usually very stingy with compliments. So
Yeah. Now, I don't like to brag, but I happen to speak French, Italian, Russian, and blue cheese.
Oh, wow.
What was the last one? Blue cheese.
Blue cheese, yeah, they're all salad dressings. That's actually an Uncle Floyd joke I borrowed from him.
Fluent in all the dressings.
Yes.
Jeff, how many languages do you speak?
I
only
barely speak English. I mean, realistically. I took Spanish
If you
in
wanna-
junior
if you
high
wanna
school.
call it- Oh,
You
sorry.
know, when you're required to take a language in junior high school. And the only thing I remember now in Spanish is no hablo español. That's the only thing I remember I can say.
You know,
Now, Jeff, I know you live in Wayne now. Did you grow up in Wayne?
No, actually, I grew up in Livingston, in New Jersey. That's where I graduated high school from in 1977. But before
Livingston
that,
High
I
School,
lived
I
in.
presume? Never.
No, before that, I was in New Brunswick. I started I started out at the yeshiva in kindergarten, and my mother decided, instead of me going to public school, because I was a very precocious kid, she said, let's go put him in a strict school. So it was a 4-story building in New Brunswick, and I was on the 4th floor. I was taking the yarmulkes off the kids' heads and throwing them out the window. And people would drive by, think the Japanese were sending paratroopers or something. Yeah, I was a very wild kid. I used to take the school bus home, and I used to blindfold the school bus driver. Guess who? He's like,
Jeff, when was your first comedy performance? You like the bar mitzvah? Did you do shtick?
well, my bar mitzvah. My mother said to me, Jeff, whatever you do, don't embarrass the family. When you get up there, please do not embarrass us. Think of us. So I said, Ma, don't worry about a thing. So I would get up there and I would say, hey, what a crowd, I tell you. Hey, Rabbi, you wear a hat like that, they want to give you a free bowl of soup. I tell you. Oh, what do you mean the Haftorah? I'll do the whole thing, I tell you, what a crowd. Hey, Uncle Seymour, you brought a family of 5. The check better be more than $35, I'll tell you that. That was my bar mitzvah. That was,
How can you do you remember any of your Torah portion? Do you remember? I remember the beginning of mine. Like, how long ago was it?
Go ahead, I got to remember mine.
Anyway, I remembered I studied German and French in high school, and we learned this very programmed way, and I switched from German to French at some point. It begins, Guten Tag, Luisa, wie geht's? Danke, guten dir, prima, wer ist denn das da drüben? Das ist mein Freund Paul Schmidt. Willst du ihn kennenlernen?
That's an excellent pronunciation. Wow.
And of course, he said, cross it to green, not in between.
Yeah. Actually, my bar mitzvah, I kind of fooled everybody. So when I read the Torah portion in Hebrew, the first couple lines were like, nobody's getting kishka. It's an extra $10 a head. I said that in Hebrew, just to throw everybody off,
I've got to tell you, Tom, sorry, I'm going a little Jew here. So I remember my bar mitzvah class. There was a boy in my class. He was 13, Tom and Veronika, whose Torah portion he had to read in Hebrew and then read the English. Now it turns out in the English he was suckling on breasts, and at 13 he didn't want to do that. So he had to, he and the rabbi talked. I wasn't in on the conversation, but they gave him another Torah portion, is all I can remember.
All right, Doug, just what time did you start drinking?
It's only, also, I remember at confirmation, the women had these white gowns and the guys all had black gowns. One of the girls, 17, 18, was not told that the gown was to go on over her clothes.
Wait, the gown was supposed to go over what?
She was wearing a white
Oh,
gown.
she wore it instead of the clothes. Oh, and I'm taking it since it was white, it was a little see-through.
It wasn't ooh, it was a good ooh.
It was,
Okay, Veronika, I think it's time for you to tell us an embarrassing story from your youth. Embarrassing or funny?
An embarrassing story from my youth. I have a story. It's not necessarily embarrassing, but it is pretty funny. And I can tell it because my mom is not going to watch this podcast. When I was 17, I got my mom stoned, and she didn't realize that I got her stoned.
Brownies?
Do what?
Cooking or?
Yes, exactly. I was baking a cake, and it was before our school trip. When you are a senior, you have a 5-day school trip where you go someplace, and we went to Prague. And for the bus ride, I made a special cake. And I overslept because the thing was, there was supposed to be a chocolate glaze on top of the cake, and then I was supposed to cut it into pieces because it was for me and my 4 friends. And I overslept, and my mom woke me up and she said, "Oh my God, you're gonna be late. Okay, go take a shower, finish packing, and I'll take care of the cake." And she did all this, and she did the chocolate glaze and cut it in pieces. And then when I go to the kitchen, there's a big slice for me for breakfast and a big slice for her for breakfast. And I couldn't think of any reason why she shouldn't eat the cake. So I said, all right, screw it. Let's just go with it. Maybe it's not that strong. So we both finish the slice. I say goodbye. I take the subway to go to the school where the bus is. By the time I get to the bus, I am flying. I am just, everything is wobbly. And when I came back a week later, she said, "It's a good time that you left, because after you left, I got really dizzy and drowsy and I just slept. And I think I caught a virus or something." I didn't have the heart to tell her because both my parents are from the generation that thinks weed and heroin are basically the same thing.
Uh-huh.
You remind me of the time I got my then 96-year-old dad high.
Wow, that's even better.
So really quick story. I was going away for the day or two, and we had just gotten the marijuana prescription for him for his pain. He had tried everything else. So I rolled him a joint, and I said, "Dad, take a puff or two every, take it in a few hours, and then take a couple puffs when you go to bed." So one of the things about being 96 is you don't remember so well. He smoked the whole thing.
Oh.
All right, who cleaned up the pizza boxes?
I've got to come up with the punchline because that's a true story. What happened at the end, Tom? I found him in the basement eating crickets. No.
What?
We have crickets in the basement. I want to make it authentic and true. I don't care if it's funny or not. We'll get funny along.
It's like the rest of your act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
You don't know my act, Veronika. I do everything I can not to get laughs. And I do really well.
He's the only comic that's allergic to punchlines.
You Gladys Simon, right? At the comic strip? You can ask her. Send her my love. Give her a kiss for me. You too, Jeff. She'll tell you how unfunny I am. She'll say I'm funny in the diner, but not on the stage. That's what she'll say.
I feel Gladys is most critical about appearance when she says you need a haircut, you need more makeup, you have
to listen. The truth about, I'd heard about Gladys, and I finally met her. I talked to her. I was like so amazed. Tom, if you know Gladys Simon, do you?
I've never met her. I've never met her.
She's
Don't
a
trip
spitfire.
over her, you'll squash her. She's like 4 foot.
Yeah,
in a
she
good way,
is
when
tiny.
it's humid. So after my first act there, she says, "You were great. Wear a blue shirt." Basically, with more words. And I thought, oh my God, the amazing Gladys Simon.
You know what, Doug? I did meet her. I met her at one of Jack Hoffman's.
There you go. That's right. She was up at the inn, whatever, the tavern.
Yep,
So,
yep.
so I'm thinking, oh my God, I did great. Gladys didn't have anything critical to say about me except I should wear blue. That's what she tells everybody. She don't wear a long sleeve shirt. Your arms are skinny.
She didn't tell me that.
She didn't tell me that either, but I heard her tell that to a guy. I overheard her telling another guy blue. She likes blue.
Yeah,
On
blue. But I actually was told if you are on video or TV or whatnot, blue is a good color.
Oh.
That works really well in that scenario. That's why I
Did you hear
decided
blue
for
from
yellow,
Gladys?
which is the opposite. But
Did you hear blue from Gladys too?
no, Gladys always tells me I should dress more severe. She wants to emphasize the whole Germanness.
And how do you feel about that?
I see where she's coming from, but I like pretty dresses. I don't always like to be this severe.
Is your comedy severe German?
Doug likes pretty dresses too.
Pretty dresses are nice. They're pretty and they're kind of flowy and all this stuff.
But is your comedy German and severe?
A little bit. I think I find a lot of humor of leaning into the stereotype instead of fighting it and having fun with it that way. And it is maybe a little hack, but it's so temptingly easy to say, of course, I'm funny. My opening line is usually, I'm an accountant from Germany. That's why comedy comes so natural to me. And it always gets a big laugh, and that kind of sets the stage. And then I go on from there. And
that's a good opening line. Anyway, so my advice to every comedian is don't take other comedians' advice.
yeah.
And then I would say to you that if you like wearing pretty dresses, and your comedy is severe, I think that's a nice contrast.
Yeah, that's true.
You surprise people. So
You should dress in lederhosen.
I don't want to say I know more than Gladys Simon, but don't overplay it, because Gladys just has this shtick of finding something to criticize about people and their dress because she's only 4 feet on a humid day.
On a humid day.
And I love her, I really do. But
Gladys is the best.
on this, I'm not so sure, because I dress more communist. I dress like communist. Yeah.
I do have a joke in my repertoire where I talk about pornography and how all good porn should be Marxist to a certain extent. And so I can relate to that.
Okay.
You're going to make me tell my Buchenwald story. It's my favorite story. Tom, you want to tell the story? You want to tell it?
That's okay. Go ahead, Doug. You know, for not being able to talk, you're doing a lot of talking tonight. Tell your Buchenwald story.
We've got like close to 45 minutes to kill, Tom.
I know.
Go on. You got the next 10 minutes are yours, buddy.
I wanted to introduce my new friend, Penelope Pig. And I hate to bring him on the show with her on the show with Doug and Jeff here because she's not kosher. But anyway, we're fattening her up for Christmas. By the way, Thanksgiving came. They don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Germany, right?
No.
Obviously. Okay. What are the typical German Christmases like?
Well, it's the that really is the OG country for Christmas.
Right.
We have the world's oldest Christkindl market in Nuremberg, which I believe is 800 plus years old. And it's Germany, Christmas, nobody does it better. It really,
Yeah.
especially because we have the Glühwein, which is hot malted wine. And it has different herbs and spices in it and quite a bit of sugar, and then with the alcohol together. And it's cold because you're wandering outside the booth and whatnot. And then you have 2, 3 of them and you feel the warmth settling down, and it's nice. It's very, very nice.
So, you know, as you're describing that, Veronica, I know my friend Tom, and something you said triggered him and made him want to say something. So can I just interrupt you, Tom? Do you want to make the comment that you wanted to make that was funny about where this market is?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Where is the market, Veronica?
The Nuremberg, I think.
Greenberg.
Oh. Well, no, it's out of context. No.
Nuremberg. Hold all your judgments about Nuremberg, please.
Tom was going to say, oh, I heard about
It was a
the
nice
Nuremberg
pun.
market.
No, I used to do a joke. I live in Lakehurst where the Hindenburg exploded. So I made a joke that the diner near me has a Hindenburger, which is a flaming hamburger on a Kaiser roll with German potato salad on the side.
I love the Kaiser roll.
Also on the menu is a Nuremberger, but that's on a trial basis. Nuremberg trial. Yeah. That's what Doug was alluding to. But out of context, is kind of lose its meaning.
No, I would have said I heard the Nuremberg market was only being done on a trial basis.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I was going to say.
Now there's no more Hindenburg, and I'm the only blimp in Lakehurst now.
That was humor for our listening audience. Some of our audience is listening. So, Tom, you tell me when you're ready for my Buchenwald story, because I'm going to do it sometime during the show.
Go for it, Doug. Go for it. This is Doug's Buchenwald.
A woman I'm very fond of. I went on a few dates with her. Her father survived both Auschwitz, and then he was moved to Buchenwald. And he survived Buchenwald also. He and his family, along with 20,000 survivors, went to Buchenwald, which for those listening that aren't familiar with history, Buchenwald was a labor camp where something like a quarter of the 500,000 Jews that were in prison there were killed.
Yeah.
So she went with her dad and 15 family members and 20,000 survivors of Buchenwald from all over the world to the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Buchenwald. And they had prayers and they had services and the whole bit. One night they had a big feast. She said, imagine a banquet fit for a king. You know, tables for 20,000 Jews or survivors, all, you know, at Buchenwald. Fit for a king. Everything you could possibly want laid out on the table in front of you. This woman leaned across the table to her dad and said, Dad, the food isn't so bad here.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is an example of Doug Mack's comedy.
I'm telling you.
It's not my comedy, it's her comedy, but she said I may have that joke and she would be proud if I would share it with the world, and I am proud. I don't know why. Now I'm ashamed, but I was proud for a moment.
What was her dad's response?
Huh?
What was her dad's response?
Oh, everybody cracked up. They're survivors of Buchenwald 50 years later, being able to celebrate such a spirited sense of humor. I thought it was great.
Yeah,
That's how I view the story.
I agree. And it really shows it's really hard to kill the human spirit. And God
That's
knows
all they had in the
right.
Holocaust. which is Tom's. I don't know why. Tom, every time Tom and I talk about what we want to do on a show, Tom's always saying, Doug, can you bring up the Holocaust more? Because that always fits with the theme of Funny Talk. Tom, it's enough, okay? Can we stop talking Holocaust already?
All right, all right.
I got one thing to say. Remember a couple years ago, Volkswagen, they had that big problem with Dieselgate. Remember Dieselgate? They were lying about, the emissions and the gas mileage of the diesel, and so they were fine. Volkswagen was fine. And it goes to show you, that when it comes to the proper use of gas, you can't have the Germans involved with that. The proper use of gas is not.
Okay.
Oh my God!
I'm writing you. You know something? I'm writing you down on a list I have, and there's only one other name on it: Gerald Benford, who's a person I'll never have on the show again. He was marketing. I can't say it, can I, Tom?
What's that?
No, he was a little inappropriate.
I love him.
Funny. He was funny. He's not coming on the show again because he was funny. We can't have funny on this show.
I invited him back on the show. He hasn't responded. Maybe it was something I said that offended him, like, you're never coming on the show again. Anyway, let me write down Jeff Green. B-U.
B-E-R-G.
How do you remember? Is there a mnemonic you can remember if you're an E or a U? Nuremberg is a U. Heidelberg is a U.
Well,
One is mountain, one is castle.
Greenland has icebergs. So if you combine Greenberg and iceberg, you can spell it. And remember how to spell
Hey,
it.
speaking of iceberg, I was thinking the other day about the Titanic. The sinking of the Titanic.
Of course, that's what you were thinking about the other day.
First of all, a couple things came to mind. How come nobody shot a hole in the bottom of the boat to let the water out? You know what I mean? And then the other thing was that, they had the lifeboats, not that many lifeboats, and usually it was like women and children first. If I was on the Titanic, I would basically, on the lifeboat would be me and the tables of smoked fish. That's all I would care about. I'm not letting that lox and sturgeon go to waste. Forget it.
Although ironically it's fish and they would be in the water in its natural habitat. So it would just float around.
Anyway, you can't fool me. A surgeon's a doctor that cuts you open when you're sick.
Exactly.
My son the sturgeon.
Sturgeon. Have I got a sturgeon for you?
Oh, that reminds me of a great, I just saw a clip from a great record I had called You Don't Have to Be Jewish. Mm-hmm. And an old woman is yelling, oh, the agony, oh, the ecstasy, oh, the agony, oh, the ecstasy. A woman's voice, what is it, Mrs. Greenberg? What's the matter? What's the matter? Oh, the agony, oh, the ecstasy. What is it? What is it? Tell me, Ethel, tell me. Oh, the agony. What's the agony? What's the ecstasy? My daughter's leaving home. I'm never going to see her again. Well, what's the ecstasy? He's a nice young doctor. How long did that take, Tom?
Too long.
I'm done. No more for me. You guys carry on.
Now, in fact, I saw that show. Remember that show? It was on off Broadway. Old Jews telling jokes. Remember that?
No.
It was a really good show. A lot of the really quick jokes that are like a minute long, but it's all acted out, and it was great. They had an ensemble of about maybe 5 or 6 people, and it was really good. Even though like most of the jokes I've heard before, but when you see it on stage being acted out, it was really good. I have to.
Was it like Borscht Belt humor?
Yeah, it was simply a Borscht Belt type stuff,
You should listen to the conversations Tom and I have talking about what we're going to do on our show. They are hysterical. Seriously.
Oh, much better than the shows, actually.
Seriously.
So, Veronika, you came. How old were you when you came to the United States?
I was in my late 20s when I came here for grad school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So
I was in New York just in time for 9/11.
And what
Oh,
are
gosh.
you learned in?
The
Yeah.
what?
What was your grad school degree in?
Baruch. Baruch.
Business?
What did you
Yeah,
study?
the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch.
Okay.
And yeah, it was good.
So you got your MBA there? Is that it?
Yeah.
What did you get it in? What concentration?
Unfortunately, I started out in marketing and switched it to finance, and that was a big mistake. I should have stuck with marketing. 'Cause
Yeah, well,
marketing, more money.
I have an MBA in marketing, and
Oh.
I'm a comic. So
Well, I have an MBA in finance and I'm a comic, so I think the MBA is the common denominator. It's basically a waste of money and time. And
yeah. Now, Jeff, do you have advanced degrees or?
No, I graduated from Kane College in Union, New Jersey. That's Ivy League, poison Ivy League. In fact, I don't want to say it was an easy school, but I took my exams at the drive-up window. You know, I would call and say, "Hey, what time does class start? Well, what time can you get here?" You know. Believe me, if you showed up for a third of your classes, you passed. Believe me, you did fine.
Now, Doug has got advanced degrees as well. I think between the four of us, we have more degrees than a thermometer.
Yeah.
Boom.
in Celsius.
So we didn't find out do you have a master's? Do you have your PhD?
Masters.
Veronica?
Oh no, I have an MBA. That's as high as it.
Oh, I'm sorry, MBA.
Yeah. MBA in
Is there
finance.
a doctorate of business administration?
No, you can get a PhD in economics or things like that, but not in business administration. It's just a master's, and that's it.
So if they gave out degrees in comedy, what do you think? What have we earned so far?
Well, instead of community college, they should have comedy college.
Yeah. I feel all of us are beyond community college when it comes to comedy. Maybe not Ivy League, but like I went to Tufts, an undergraduate, and that was the school where everyone went who couldn't get into Harvard.
It was a tough school, I tell you. Tough.
So I feel all of us were at the Tufts level. That sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds right.
Dr. King College. Hey, I went to Washington University. I'm not going to put that school in category with King. There was once, I'm sorry, there was once a caller on a radio show I was on, and he called in and he said he like slurred and we thought he was from Harvard, and then he spoke again and it was Hartford.
Oh, that's the difference.
I don't want to say that nobody ever came out of Kane successful or anything like that, but it's the only school in which the alumni get paid from the school. We get checks, you know.
That actually sounds like a great
on hard times.
Yeah.
I had a joke about that. My university hounds me. I'm 64. So this is, it's going past 40 years now. Every year they give us money. I'm like, I paid for school. We paid a lot at the time. I don't like get calls from Walmart. Hey, you remember the refrigerator you bought last year? Hey, we really want to take care of our refrigerator gaskets, for only 27 cents a month. I don't get calls from Walmart or Home Depot. Hey, will you give us a little something? Why do schools think that they have a right? They take an outlandish amount of money. My son went to UC Berkeley.
Mm.
Now, he's like, I'm like, honey, go to Rutgers. Dad, I'm better than a state school. Like, you're going to a state school.
That's funny.
I'm gonna shut up. Let me get some tape. It'll help me remember.
Are you all right, Doug?
Long day, Tom.
Yeah. Well,
Here.
so that much better. Much better.
There you go.
Now,
Hey, I brought a special. Can I bring a special guest on real quick? I'm gonna bring. Hold on one second. Hold
Sure. Now you have to tie your hands behind your back. Oh,
All right.
look at
I
this.
figured, it's Christmas time, so I figure we have a little Christmas music going on. I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. We'll have snow and mistletoe and presents under the tree. Ba, 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 ba. A little Bing Crosby there for you.
I was gonna say,
very
was
little.
that Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra?
That's Bing Crosby.
That was Bing. You can tell by
I
his
do a little
ears.
Frank Sinatra impersonation. Hey,
Yeah.
Jilly, pick up my underwear. You know? Jilly Rizzo. I don't know.
That's great.
Do you like do you watch Frosty the Snowman? Anybody watch Frosty the Snowman? From
Sure.
with the 1969 special with Jimmy Durante doing the voice of Frosty.
Jack Oakey.
Yeah. I do. Frosty the Snowman had to hurry on his way, and he said goodbye, and don't you cry. I'll be back on Christmas Day. Little Jackie
birthday.
Vernon as as Frosty there. I'm a big Frosty the Snowman fan. That's
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't
I
know
love
it
all
was
those
a show. I didn't know
Bass
the
and
song.
Rankin. What's that
oh, those
stuff?
are great. Yeah, I watched Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer last week.
Uh-huh.
I checked out my birth certificate. It actually says I was born on the island of misfit toys.
That's pretty funny. I think a lot of comics were, including
Yeah,
me.
that's it. Yeah. All right, who got a
Tell's
doggy?
description-
Oh,
Isn't it David Tell's description of comedians? We're all broken toys.
That's right.
yeah, that's right. And it's true.
Dog.
What's the definition of comedian? I didn't hear.
That we're all broken toys.
Yeah, I was saying I was born on the island of misfit toys.
Nobody wants a Charlie in the box.
Charlie in the box. Hey, I'm still wondering what was wrong with the Raggedy Ann doll. You're like every other doll you can figure
It was
out.
on the rag.
It was on. Wait,
Yes?
now cut that out.
Did you play with Raggedy Ann doll? Did you
Yeah,
play-
that didn't seem to have any kind of like oddity about it. Like what was wrong with it? I never got that.
Yeah.
You had the Charlie in the box, right? You had the train that had the square wheels, right?
Right.
But I couldn't figure out what was wrong with
What toys did
maybe
you
she
play
had
with?
multiple personality syndrome. Maybe she was like Sybil, Raggedy Sybil or something. I don't know.
She was broken on the inside.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, what was wrong with the
What toys
elephant?
did you play with when you were a kid?
Hmm?
What were your favorite toys when you were a kid, Tom?
Me?
Tom.
Oh,
Well, one year I got a hula hoop. Now, they called it a hula hoop. I called it a belt. But I grew up during the era of Etch-a-Sketch and Silly Putty and what was this Slinky?
Yep.
That kind of stuff. But one year I got a ventriloquist dummy. Jeff, you'd appreciate this. It was one of those Danny O'Day jobs. And I almost actually, instead of going into comedy, I almost went into ventriloquism. Doug
Oh.
doesn't know that, but he used to sit on my lap and
That's not what you do?
I always wanted to be a ventriloquist, only to go into a wake, and then I could throw my voice. Hey, I ain't dead yet. Hey, don't shut that lid. Just.
I love it.
Make people question.
Now, what was the gift-giving custom in Germany?
So in contrary to the US, I know you guys usually celebrate the morning of the 25th, and we celebrate the evening of the 24th.
Okay.
So we really have, so we get our presents earlier, but it's also, you usually get dressed up because then you have a nice dinner or you go to church or other things. So you
When
get
do you
dressed up.
start? When do
Sorry?
you start putting out Christmas lights? Do you decorate lights outside?
Yeah, and we have
environmentally friendly.
We have Advent, which is where you have the round, what's it called?
The Lubitsch, Greenberg.
We're getting closer. We're getting closer. No, it's I can't think of the word right now. It's green and like a circle, and the green comes from the pine tree.
Wreaths.
The wreath.
A wreath, yes.
Yeah.
And then we have 4 candles, and you light one for each Sunday, which is Advent. So it's about 4 Sundays before the 24th.
That's an Advent wreath.
Yes, that's it. Adventskalender. Yes, perfect.
Mhm.
Adventskranz, actually, I should say. Yeah. And so I guess the end of November is when we get started. And we don't have Thanksgiving, so it's not like here in the States. I know Thanksgiving is usually the start line for Christmas, the starting point.
We start the war against Christmas, like before even Thanksgiving.
It's getting earlier and earlier every year.
Yeah, but Germany, you're very big into Oktoberfest. Like Oktoberfest is probably bigger in Germany than it is here. So you do a lot of maybe similar celebrations and stuff like that.
But that's very regional. Oktoberfest is only in the south and really only in Bavaria. No one else.
Really?
Oh, all right.
But we have, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask Jeff if he celebrates the traditional Christmas night for Jews around here with Chinese and a movie.
Right, you know.
Not this year, no movies.
That's right. The
What if they made a movie called COVID-19? Could you go into?
Well, all the movies out now are rated COVID-19.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. That was yours.
That's all right. But
And so, we got Hanukkah coming up. We got Hanukkah.
yeah, talk about Hanukkah.
You know, I want to tell you about Hanukkah with me, growing up. In my house when I was a kid, Hanukkah was a real paradox because in Hanukkah you celebrated that the lights stayed on for 8 days, the candles, the oil, there was enough oil for 8 days. We celebrate that, what a miracle. Meanwhile, when I was growing up, if I left a room that the lights were on for more than 8 minutes, my father's screaming at me, God, shut those lights off, you're wasting electricity. But Dad, it's Hanukkah. I don't care about the Hanukkah, for God's sakes,
You remind me of a Passover one spring. It was really cold. You open up the door for Elijah. My mother was like 92 at the time. She said, or she wasn't 92. She died in 90. She was old at the time. She says, close the door. You'll let out the heat.
Hey, I remember a number of years ago, we had the menorah that we put in the window, the electric menorah with the bulbs and everything. So one year, the bulbs were really getting old. They really started flickering and actually started spelling out early bird, early bird.
You reminded me, in our house, my dad was so infirmed before he died. The VA gave him electric a chairlift to go up and down. I kept on calling it an electric chair. I'm like, Dad, come down the hall and get in the electric chair. Yeah, I don't want to get in the electric chair.
That is not a good name.
Speaking of electric chairs, my father had MS, and I used to take care of him before he died because taking care of him after he died wouldn't make sense. Although it would have been easier.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be funny, Doug. Go back on script. So anyway, he used to be in one of those scooters, and he used to annoy the hell out of me because he would sit down. He was always sitting down. He would come to the table, and he would always forget to turn off his scooter, and it would run out of juice. So every night I would yell at him to turn off his scooter. Finally, this is how I get with my passive-aggressive pranks. Before I would turn it off for him, I put the speed all the way up to the highest level, and then turn it off. So knowing that my father was going to get this sudden urge to pee, and he'd have to go to the bathroom. So he turns on his thing, and he goes to back up, and he ends up the wall on the opposite side of the room because he just went 69 miles an hour backwards. And he's yelling at me the whole time, "You dopey bastard! You dopey bastard!" I was 12 years old till I realized that wasn't my real name. Those were the good old days.
I hear you.
And when he used to tick me off, all he did all day long was he'd watch TV 24/7. Somehow he was always watching MASH. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, when he would tick me off, before I left the house, I would hide the remote control in the top shelf of the refrigerator so he couldn't get at it.
Evil.
Yeah. So the home health aide would always find it in the butter bin and just like shake his head and laugh. Meanwhile, my father's like, "Where's the remote? I can't find the remote."
What do they call it? A callback?
Oh, a clicker. It was a clicker.
A clicker.
This is why I was laughing when Tom said, "I took care of my dad." Anyway, I did the same thing. I did different flavors, but I did the same thing. Like when the doctor, I've told this story before.
Although I have to say, if Tom says he's taking care of his dad and then tells him to get into the electric chair, then can lead us to different conclusions.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Hey, speaking of electric chairs, if I was ever on death row and they asked me, "What do you want for your last meal?" I'd say, "Just take me to the 24/7 buffet. I'll never finish. I'm not done yet. I'm just getting a second wind."
Yeah, exactly.
My mother always told me that if I'm ever on death row, I should order truffles because they only grow certain times of the year. This was back in the day. So she thought I was going to be in death row when I was like somewhere between the ages of 5 and 12, because I remember that was her advice.
Yeah, that's actually surprising. What made her think that you're going to end up on death row and need to hear that advice?
I'd killed a few people in my neighborhood.
Don't you hate that? You kill one person, maybe two.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're a murderer.
Yeah. Bad kid.
Bad kid, yeah.
Evil
Exactly.
seed.
I hate when they capture serial killers before they're not done yet. They still like have another 6 or 7 to go or something,
I killed a box of Wheaties this morning.
I knew that was coming. How did I know that was coming?
That's what she said.
I heard this good joke the other day.
Oh,
You'll be
good
the
joke.
judges.
Don't
I didn't make
pay
it up or
attention.
anything. The guy goes to the doctor, and the doctor tells him, "I'm really sorry. You got 2 weeks to live. You only got 2 weeks to live." "Okay, I'll take the last week in July and the first week in August."
Guy goes to a hospital. Doctor comes up to him. He says, "Mr. Cohen, how are you?" He goes, "I'm fine, doctor." He says, "Mr. Cohen, I've been trying to call you, but I need to let you know your wife died last night." "Oh, doctor, you were great. I know you did everything you could. Thanks for letting me know." Next day, Mr. Cohen was in the hospital. The doctor sees him. "Mr. Cohen, how are you today?" "I'm fine. I came to see my wife." "Mr. Cohen, I guess you forgot. 2 nights ago, I told you your wife had died the night before. I'm really sorry." This happens for a week. Finally, the doctor sees Mr. Cohen. He says, "Mr. Cohen, listen, your wife died. I'm very sorry to tell you. You've been having a hard time accepting it. Here's a card for a psychiatrist. I want you to go and see him." He goes, "Doctor, I don't have a psychological problem. I just love hearing you say your wife died."
Wow.
How long did that take, Tom?
So this guy goes to a psychiatrist, completely naked, wrapped in saran wrap. The psychiatrist says, "I can clearly see your nuts."
Hey, Tom, why don't you open your act with that? I've never heard you. Have you ever done that on stage?
That's an old joke. It's not my
It doesn't
joke.
matter. I've never heard it before. Jeff, if you
You know,
ever
the
heard
definition.
I had never heard that one.
Really?
No, but the definition of a genius is you remember the content and you forget the source. So everything that's good and funny, claim it.
Yep. Speaking of which, I'm going to be working. You ever hear of Uncle Floyd? Have you ever worked with
Of
Uncle
course,
Floyd?
yeah.
I'm going to be opening for him this Friday and Saturday at Scotty's Comedy Cove in Springfield.
All right.
I've always wanted to see Uncle Floyd again.
And I started out with Uncle Floyd. He used to play every Tuesday night at Colucci's restaurant in Haledon. And he used to bring me up, and he would let me do 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever I wanted. And I did that for 2 years straight, every Tuesday night. And one day, you know, every time I went up, I tried to come up with new material to try out. And one time I went up and I said, you know, they found Snap, Crackle, and Pop dead. They suspect a serial killer. So it got a good laugh. And I kind of like looked around. I says, where the hell did that come from? And Floyd said from the piano, from my act 15 years ago.
I did go as a serial killer one Halloween, and I had a whole bunch of mini cereals sewn into a trench coat, and that was my costume.
And
Nice.
one Thanksgiving, my girlfriend did not have an outfit. She wrapped herself in saran wrap and went as leftovers.
Hey, you know, when I was a kid, my mother used to make my Halloween costumes. Now, keep in mind, I did not come from a loving home at all. You know, my parents hated me. You know, I was not wanted. You know, my mother, she tried to do a Jewish abortion. She tried to return me to Bloomingdale's. That's how bad it was. You know, it was horrible. You know, but she still. You know, my mother's 84 years old. She still reminds me that she suffers from postpartum depression. Thanks, Ma. But anyway, so she made this costume one year. I think I was maybe 7 years old. And she took a black sheet and put white stripes down the middle. I was the road. Wait till it gets dark before you go trick-or-treating, Jeff.
Yeah, did they have a life insurance policy out on you?
I don't know what they had on me. It was just, you know, my father was no treat either. You know, my father would say, hey, Jeff, you know, go play ball in the street. Go play ball in the street. We lived on 280.
Yeah.
It was rough.
It
Tom,
sounds rough.
didn't you had an incident recently on one of New Jersey's highways?
Oh, well, I was going to a gig. It was before COVID. And I'm on Route 80. And I'm going pretty fast because I'm late for my gig. I see the lights behind me. So the cop, got to stop. I stop. The cop comes to my window. He says, excuse me, do you have any idea how fast you were going? I said, I was going the speed limit. He said, sir, I clocked you doing 80. I said, well, that's what the sign said, 80. He said, yeah, he didn't laugh. He said, sir, that's not the speed limit, that's the highway. So I didn't say anything. I figured this guy's got it out for me. Finally, he says, well, what do you have to say for yourself? I said, I'm just glad you didn't stop me on 287. Thank you, Doug.
You know, as you're telling that story, I'm thinking, you know, in all our years in comedy together, how often have you randomly set up a joke for me where I get to talk about giving a dog an orgasm? I can't remember a single time you've like segued, you've figured out a way to segue from a dog to me giving it, you know, happiness. Great.
Yeah,
happiness.
well, that kind of doesn't come up much in conversation.
It's all about the pivot.
Speaking of segues, Doug, why don't you tell us?
You didn't get us. You want a segue for Christmas, Tom?
Yes, some kind of conveyance. But so Doug, why don't you tell us about your experience with animals?
And don't be sheepish. No, 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 no.
I love you.
You know, I don't know how long I was in comedy, maybe 4 or 5 years, when I realized I had an entire bestiality set, totally inadvertent, but they all fit together like pieces in a puzzle perfectly. I had a story I called The Really Happy Dog. The really, really happy dog. The
Tell us
dog
that
was
one.
like really happy. I have another story called, I call it Elephant Penis, but it could also be called what I saw on National Geographic during the day when kids could see it. I won't tell that story. And another one about a masturbating chimpanzee. And together they form, you know, it's like Tom's Meals on Wheels tour. You've got a whole Segway pieced together. You at a doggy with a doggy bag, you know?
Well, don't
Hey,
keep us
Doug.
hanging. Tell us about the dog that you made very happy.
No, Tom,
No?
we're not going to. First of all, that gets attributed to me, and it's entirely on the dog and his owner. This was my first date with this woman. I had no idea what she had prepped this dog to be into, you know. I was petting the dog normally. So we're going to end that story there.
Hey,
Petting
Doug,
or
I got
heavy
a
petting?
good dating site for you. I got a good dating site.
I need when I have a girlfriend with a beagle.
Farmanimalsonly.com.
Gives new meaning to the term "I love you."
Well, Michael Che has a great joke, how it is kind of weird how we all get so up in arms about bestiality, but we all eat meat. And then he said, if I were a goat, I much rather,
Have sex than be eaten.
exactly. Or as he put it, end up in some Jamaican's lady stew.
One of the reasons
You're making me hungry.
One of the reasons I'm divorced is
One of them.
one Thanksgiving, we were talking about how wonderful the food was, and somebody commented that the pig was, the ham was farm raised and totally organic and a great life. And how she thinks it's much better for an animal to be free range and whatever. And as she's telling the story, I said, please, all I said was, please pass the pork. And all the eyes turned to me like I had said something. My aunt was, oh, you know, what a wonderful life these animals live. Please pass the pork. Okay, that's my sense of humor. This is why I don't get laughs. No question.
All right, now.
Are you with me, people? That's what I have to say to my audiences all the time. Are you with me? No, not really.
Good thing is, if you're on stage and with COVID going on, it's not good to get laughs. That could be a super spreader. So
Yeah, that's true.
better.
Exactly true.
Oh, I'm definitely going to use that the next time I bomb and say, I understand you are not laughing to keep us all safe. That's the only reason. And I appreciate it. It's good.
Veronika, you have to begin. You have to set up early on the premise that you do not want them laughing. And then if they laugh, you chastise them like a severe German woman.
I actually did that in a show for real, where I came out and I said, people were laughing at my first joke, and then I said, stop laughing. This is German humor. We take humor very serious. It's not a laughing matter. And then moved on from there. But I'm not doing it anymore because enough people were confused and trying to placate me by not laughing. And then the others
it's weird.
didn't laugh because they thought it was kind of hacky. So
You want to know why? I know why.
why?
Why?
Because people aren't as smart as you. So what you find funny will not be funny to most people. This is why Tom does so well in comedy. He's like the stupidest. Like a 3-year-old would get his He goes to 3-year-olds' movies to get material.
I
But he
almost went to
kills.
another kid's movie this weekend, Doug.
But he kills. He's happy, easy comedy. You don't have to think about, oh, the German woman doing irony. I get it. I came for comedy, not irony.
Oh, sometimes in my act, if they start laughing right away, I interrupt them and say, please don't laugh. It throws me off. I'm not used to it.
Hey, that's my line.
Very early on in my comedy career, I was so nervous and I would memorize everything verbatim and just go over it over and over and over again. So basically what you're not supposed to do. So I would go there and recite. And then if people were laughing too much, I got angry because it was throwing me off my rhythm. And I was so worried that I'm going to forget the next joke. And you can see it on my face. I'm like, stop laughing. I'm going to forget the next line. And yeah, my teacher said, you should never get mad at the audience for laughing because that is kind of the point.
Yeah, really.
What? You don't
Do you remember audience laughing?
Whenever it happens, I stop. I give them a little lecturette on how they're interrupting my flow. They should fucking behave themselves. Behave like you here to hear yourself talk or me?
You're probably one of the few comics who would call them hecklers. They're just laughing and going along.
I might have had a heckler, but I have a defense against heckling. I'm deaf.
Yeah, he's deaf in one ear.
Oh, so you just don't hear it. You just ignore it.
He just hears heck, not heckle.
I don't want to. I tell the idiot heckler I'm deaf. And it shuts them up. They don't realize we've had a conversation and I clearly can, but you have to get into the mindset of the heckler. But I'm with you. I'm with them. They're giving me time that I didn't have before. I value the heckler. I can get a good minute or two out of them.
Yeah.
Now, I taught public school in Patterson, so I wait for the hecklers. I'm ready.
I still haven't gotten a good heckler yet, but yeah, 2021.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think I've ever. The one time I had a heckler, I was like engaging with him, and then later on Facebook, the comic that came before me that did horribly with the heckler and was getting annoyed with him, chastised me publicly. He said, listen, when the comic before you shuts down a heckler, don't invite him to participate. I'm like, I didn't say it, but I was thinking, this heckler was funnier than you.
Hey, one time I was doing this show and this woman was going, you stink, you're horrible, I can't take it anymore, not funny, not funny. And I said to her, Ma, if I knew you were going to be this way, I wouldn't have paid for your cover, for God's sakes. You know? Now get out of here.
That's a good line. I love that.
That's awesome. No, I'll tell you, I really haven't I think heckling is like gone out of vogue. I don't see it much lately. Well, except Doug shows, but.
I do not do I get heckled? I can't.
No, you don't get heckled either. If I want to get heckled, I go to my brother's house for Christmas. That's it. My brother's heard all my jokes 100 times, so he's the first.
Hey, you know, the other night I didn't get heckled. I was doing this fundraiser for the Fair Lawn Jewish Center, and nobody heckled, but they stopped all their checks. So I don't know.
That's good.
That's Yiddish for heckling.
Okay. So, guys, I will tell you that officially we've done our time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We're up for parole.
Or not, audience. Oh, let me say hello to our audience. Kathy, thank you for listening. Okay, so so if anybody has anything they want to brag about or mention or bring up other than, listen, I know you people in New Jersey love Uncle Floyd, but if you haven't seen my friend Tom Angeli, you owe it to yourself before you die. Before he dies.
On
Tom
stage.
Angeli performing at Scotty's this Friday and Saturday night. Shows beginning at 7:30, Tom.
7:30, yeah.
Please get there at 7 and order delicious food made by a wonderful chef named Joseph.
Yeah. And they have great cheesecake.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So
And you
actually,
get tickets by going to Scotty's Pub and Comedy, Scotty's Steakhouse.
ScottySteakhouse.com. And yeah, Uncle Floyd's been doing it for like 50 years,
yeah.
and he's great. He's tops.
Yep.
He's tops.
Does he still do Joe Frankfurter? Remember that you did like the send up on Joe Franklin? You know?
Yeah, he actually got sued by Joe
Oh, he
Franklin.
did? Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uncle
I
Floyd,
called him up.
stop impersonating me now. I will have
Actually-
my attorneys Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe come after you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So listen, so it turns out that we also share a comedy Zoom event between Veronika and Jeff. I don't know if you've done HQ. So do you know the plug for comedy? No, not HP.
HP, yes.
Which is really it was a lot of fun to be on as a comedian. I have no idea what it was for Kathy,
I love HP show. It's like a late night show on acid.
Yeah.
Where should they go to
They
look
get used
for
to the
it?
sound effects.
Where should they go to look for it?
Jeff, you know the link because I always have to beg you to send it to me.
Maybe I'll send out the link.
You're on
Just go
Facebook?
find it like HP Oddcast on Facebook or HP Comedian on Facebook.
And I have to tell you, when I performed there, I got more laughs, I think, than I've ever gotten before performing comedy, even though it was Zoom, and even though these were recorded laughs. But
I
You know,
love
it's pretty
it. At
bad
first
when you
it
don't,
threw me
even
off,
the recorded laughs don't work. You know, that's when you know things are rough, you know?
the button broke.
Well, Doug, there was that one show that we went on together and did each other's act.
That was one of my favorite nights in comedy. You sucked at doing my act, but I did great with your act. I heard things from the crowd I'd never heard before. I don't.
Yeah, it's called
understand
laughing.
laughing.
Anyway. So
Do you have any exciting Zoom or the like comedy events coming up that you'd like to pitch?
Jeff, you've always got things in the hopper.
Yeah, let's see, I'm doing this Friday night, the Actors Temple in New York. They're having like, you know, their Hanukkah service, and then they do comedy afterwards. So it's going to be on Zoom. So I'll be
Nice.
doing that.
Will
then
you
I'll be-
please apologize to the rabbi for me, because I told my story about giving the dog an orgasm at the temple
No problem.
when I
And then
was.
other than that, yeah, just usually on Wednesday nights on Gladys Simon's Zoom comedy party on Facebook. So doing that, and yeah, and then other than that, I just pitch what I do during the day. You know, just mortgages. So anybody needs a mortgage or has somebody that can refer me mortgages, you know, look for me on Facebook. Jeff Greenberg at Guaranteed Rate. You know, because, you know, like I said, doing impersonations of Eddie Cantor on Zoom just ain't paying the bills, you know.
And Veronika, you have anything coming up?
I also am on Gladys Simon's show next Wednesday with Jeff. So definitely go check that out. And then Friday's HP show. And my friend just showed me it's HP Oddcast. So ODDCAST, and then you find it on Facebook. And then I have a few videos of myself on YouTube. If you are interested in that, it's Veronika with a K, not a C, and Lubitsch, and it's BITSCH. So there's an S in there. And yeah, come and check it out and approach me with invitations to comedy. I am a little bummed because I really thought the beginning of this year would be the year when I finally get to play in 2 comedy clubs that I've been eyeing for a long time. And I got a connection and I talked to the guy and he said, stop by in April and I put you on stage guaranteed. Yeah, and that didn't happen. So
Yeah.
Already.
So okay, so
More important
Doug,
to
what do
work on
you?
your- more important to work on your comedy than the comedy clubs.
I'm sorry, what? It's
More important to work on your comedy than the comedy clubs.
true.
Because I
And
did
that's
a lot
why
of work to get on a lot of clubs that I'm proud to have gotten on, but I got on too early and I worked too hard when I wasn't ready to take advantage of them. So I was at Gotham, I was at Caroline's, I was at the comic strip, not Gladys's show, but it was too early for me to do anything. Anyway, that's my advice. So love the clubs that you're comfortable with
yes.
and get better there. And then when you get to these other places, you'll be undeniable.
And this has been another episode of Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. Tom Mangelli, Doug Max, Veronika Lubitsch, and Jeff Greenberg. From all of us here in Comedy Land, happy holidays.
And yeah, happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy upcoming Christmas.
Fröhliche Weihnachten.
Yeah.